Bacardi and cola, do it.
But I'm also doing that while I'm looking at INAT to see.
Put a little sugar on it, sweetheart. Whoa. I can't believe it. I'm losing to a rug.
What? Oh, they've got Umidia. That'd be cool if I could find some of those.
Your mom keeps Umidia.
Be pretty dope.
It would be pretty cool if your mom kept Umidia.
They've got another different species. What is that? Cyclocosmia.
What is cyclocosmia?
It's another trapdoor, so it's
yeah.
If it's not Umidia, basically it's Cyclocosmia. That's the two genus we have here on the eastern side of the U.S.
Yeah.
I'm not seeing any
little hairless trapdoors.
Not seeing any Vehovis, but I don't know. What's the worst that can happen? There's so few people out there, dude. There's a very good chance that no one's bothered looking, so there's no observations. So
Exactly.
I'm gonna take the black light out regardless.
Yeah.
Because I'm taking the hooks and hopefully can come across some nice timbers.
Nice. I just bought new black lights off Amazon that are like little baby ones, and they throw a better beam than my big ones. So,
how much is it expensive? How much are they?
Like $15 for two.
Oh, dude, send me the link.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
I have my headlamp, which has a black light on it, but you have to like cycle through the different lights to get to it.
Right.
And I'd rather just have something smaller and more handheld that I can sort of hold closer to the ground and stuff.
Yeah, these are not for walking per se. I mean, I think if you had your headlamp on, you wouldn't be able to see it. But if you had no headlamp and you were just using the black light, you could totally walk a game trail or a hiking trail and use it. You know what I mean? Yeah. They're not the most powerful. They're $15 on Amazon, but
right.
For two. But way better than my $30 one that takes 4 AA's, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah.
But yeah, I'll definitely send you the link. I mean, I'm just using them for finding the baby Parabuthus in their deli cups.
Right.
So,
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's Monday night.
Back.
If you're looking at us, that means it's Monday. This is Snakes and Stogies, episode 239. I'm trying to read the comments while I'm saying that. Mike Kosicki, Rhino Rat Eggs.
Nice.
Bad. That sucks.
Oh, no. I'm looking at the Orchid Okati and Pyromilana.
Yeah.
Wait, so they all went bad or just the rhinos?
I think just the rhinos.
Okay.
Huh. At least you got rhino eggs. No, I'm kidding.
It's true.
That sucks. This episode, as always, is brought to you by blackboxcages.com. Go give them a follow on Facebook. Give them a follow on Instagram. Shop around. Go on the website. Check out all the awesome things they have to offer. And then say you want to, you see something that tickles your fancy that you just got to have, rustles your jimmies. You put it in the cart, and then at checkout, you put in the code THN25. Gets you a little bit of a discount, and then you can double down on those savings and choose the pickup option instead of shipping if you're within a reasonable distance of North Georgia, or you live in like the Pacific Northwest and you feel like making the drive. You want to make a thing of it. Just pick up straight from Black Box, see the setup, meet the gang. You won't be disappointed. Racks, cages, they got it all. And then Fulvius Apparel, fulviusapparel.com. Use the code THN at checkout there. Get 15% off your order. That is the exclusive promo code for THN listeners and viewers like you. Herp shirts, Herp hats, Herp coffee mugs, Herp hoodies, all that good stuff. I've been on a roll. I'm wearing this Obey Taipan shirt.
Pretty snazzy.
That I had. So I had the one that I made that has a bearded dragon on it, and I was like, you know what? I got to have another option. So Taipan it is.
I like the colors too.
It looks orange, but it's actually red. I don't. It's like your shirt red. So.
Okay. Nate says, Phil out here making Don Fry jealous. Hardly. He's got like 100 pounds of muscle on me. So
No, Tyson, I did not pick up in the Pacific Northwest. I'm saying if you live in the Pacific Northwest and someone felt like driving cross country, they could use the pickup option
Yes.
and save on shipping.
An adequate correction.
Yes. Where's my Nile with the pyramid design? I'll add it onto the list.
Yeah, I actually think that'd be really cool. Both, I think Nile Monitor and Nile Croc, and like have like a map of the Nile Delta. You know, I thought that'd be cool.
I have a pyramid one already. It's just got the ball python on it and says Investments 101.
Nice. Not the same pyramid.
Not the same pyramid, but in that arena.
In that
geometric
the
shape.
ballpark, yes.
Yeah, a handful of things, new options for shirts have been uploaded within the last week or so, so go check those out. And then Cold-Blooded Caffeine, the best coffee money can buy. We are biased, but Snakes and Stogies blend is where it's at. And it just so happens to feature on the label a snake from the very genus we're going to be getting into tonight.
Yes.
Chlorechis action there. Yes. Rwanda and Mexico coming together for one bag.
As Paulie Shore says, just interweave.
You got to interweave them.
Just got to interweave.
Tyler PJs.
Steven Tyler PJs.
Use the code SPOKE at checkout.
Eating it like a hungry man. Middle America, ripping the fields. Ooh.
That movie's great.
Yep.
I don't care what anybody says. That man is a national treasure.
He really is. He had a few years where he was a little cuckoo, but he's back on track now, and that makes me happy.
I feel like there's a lot of illegal substances in the mix there. So
yeah, did I tell you one of my buddies from high school saw him at the Hard Rock and like went up to him and said, "Paulie, I'm one of your biggest fans, man. I'd love to get a photo with you." And he thought he was like trolling, so Paulie Shore screamed at him, was like, "Get away from me! I'm tired of you people. I have to save it for the real fans," and like got all crazy, and it was horrible. And he was like, "No, never meet your idols, never meet your heroes." So,
wow. Dustin Black said he watched on ML 2 nights ago.
Nice, excellent.
Yeah. Well, what is new down there in the lovely state of Florida?
Oh my. I went road cruising about 2 weeks ago with Anna Maria's little cousins. They're very young, and we found bugs. We didn't find a single freaking reptile, but we found a legitimate palmetto bug, which was cool because I actually ran down the road and grabbed it with my hand, which I've never been able to do when it's not like in a palmetto bush. Does that make sense? So I grabbed them on the road, which is really cool because the kids were like, "Oh my God, that's like a real one." I'm like, "That's a real one." And man, and they have a musk that is very, very sweet, almost like a candy scent. And I
you're about to say almost like a candy flavor.
No, I mean, I've never tasted it, but you can get the smell in the air, and it's very, very sweet. And you'd think that a harmless, good cockroach that's plum purple color and smells like candy would be more
a lot better.
No, I was gonna say you'd think that people would not be so terrified of them and give them such a horrible stigma, but which I thought was really cool. And then we found I did find one leopard frog, a little baby leopard frog, so I caught that for them. But that was good, man, just to get out and get out in the bush because it's been a while since I've done that. Snake room is hot, man. It is real hot. It's like 85 in there today. But everyone's chugging along. However, sadly, I did lose a snake. Excuse me, let me rephrase that. I did not have a snake escape. I lost a snake to
life.
Yes. How do you phrase that? I mean, we're so used to saying
I just say an animal rolled.
Yes, an animal. One of my snakes passed away. That is where I'm going with this. My Atheris chlorechis, my last Atheris chlorechis, passed away. So
the one that should have been mine.
The one that should have been yours. I have no idea how old it was. I got it as a juvenile. I have pictures of its ontogenetic change, which I think is very cool because very seldom do we get to see that, let alone do they actually do it. I don't know if it's a locality thing or I don't know, like a phenotype type thing that does it. But anyway, passed away. I don't know if it was from it being the desert room and it just got too dry.
Yeah.
But I always had a water bowl in there. I always misted it down. I sent Smitty we're going to show a video in a little bit of me misting it down, but yeah, that was pretty heart wrenching. So I no longer have anything arboreal. So, but that's okay. You know, we live and learn. And now we're going to do a whole episode on Atheris. So other than that, man, status quo.
Yeah. So this is something that I've like kind of wanted to do for a while. I just never had a sort of the right time to sort of make it happen. But like, I really like the idea of sort of doing Genus spotlights or highlights, whatever you want to call it. So for those, you know, the weeks that we don't have somebody lined up or scheduling conflict happens or something, you know, it's relatively easy to throw together and interesting to talk about because I feel like we do kind of tend to bounce around a good bit on a show and, you know, might give some attention to various species, but I figured as a whole genus, it's cool to sort of go down some rabbit holes. But first, what are you smoking?
I grabbed a Corona Espinosa Habano.
Nice.
And it tastes great. It smells great. The draw is trash. And I'm really disappointed in the draw. I V-cut it.
I've had the bigger gauge in that. It's been a while, but
yeah. And honestly, man, we both love Espinosa, and we both love a good Habano. But what does this one say on the side?
It might open up.
It's got the year on it.
I just have to give it a little time.
Yeah. So, but I mean, I stopped. You saw when I put it down, and it's already out. So
yeah.
What about yourself, sir?
The old standby.
Oh, nice.
That Nika Rustica Adobe that I'm always
hot to try.
Yeah. That's a great for $7.50 for the Toro. It's a fantastic smoke. Absolutely box worthy. Jeff box worthy. And I will die on the hill of for a sub $8 cigar. They are one of the best. So I started this one on my way home earlier from work, left it in my car so it didn't get all spongy and gross.
Yeah.
And when we started, I did that, but I've got a second on deck.
Nice. Look at you. How much is a box?
$100
$100 for a box of 20?
I think they come in boxes of 24, and I want to say they end up being about $130.
Okay. Not bad.
I don't know. Most shops have some sort of box discount. So here, the box discount is you get 20 or more cigars, you get 20% off. So
okay, that's good.
Box ends up being, I think, 130 or 140 after tax. More than reasonable. And, you know.
And did you guys ever do mix and match box?
Yes.
That's great, man. I love that. That's fantastic. Nobody does that by me.
Yeah, that's something a lot of people take advantage of that, and especially people that are sort of newer to cigars that don't want to be stuck with one thing. Because what if you haven't had it before and you don't like it? You know, then you have 24 cigars that you don't have any desire to have or smoke. So to have get a little your own sampler of sorts to where you can try different sizes and different wrappers and, you know, different sizes in the same blend, things like that. You know, it's good to have that.
Yeah.
So it's nifty. And like I said, most shops have some sort of box discount. So if you go in there and you're looking to buy a box, just say, you know, just ask them if they do any sort of deals on boxes. I'd be surprised if there was a shop that didn't to some degree, whether or not it's.
Yeah.
You know,
I know my local shops, they do box discount, but they won't let you mix and match. Like it's like you're buying a sealed box. You're not buying 20 sticks out of the room per se. You're buying a sealed cellophane,
which
box.
Usually, like for Daytona, like that's what I normally do is I'll get a box and then some. And and just get a mix of stuff that I like. Maybe pick out a couple things that I know you haven't had that you wanted to try.
Yeah,
you know.
I appreciate that.
KP's there, a handful of the homies that are also into cigars. I get some
Yeah.
stuff that maybe they can't get a hold of or haven't tried. And
Which, not to switch gears on you real quick, I just want to say that our hearts go out to all of our friends, listeners, family in Central and East Texas. Just let you guys know we are thinking about you guys.
I'm so out of the loop, dude. Like, I've heard inklings of what's going on, but basically, is it flash floods?
Yeah, it's floods and
taking over.
Yeah, lots of destruction, lots of deaths. Probably going to be the worst flooding in U.S. history. So
wow,
we're worse than the Appalachians so far.
Really?
So yeah.
Crazy.
So we shall see. And side note, Reptile Rejects.
Who is that?
Is in the chat. Our favorite Canadians are putting together a podcast, so we're probably going to have them on in the near future to rep their new Reptile Rejects podcast. Going back to cigars, I just found something. Not found something. I was, that big I don't want to say shipment, but that collection of Gurkhas I just got.
Yeah.
Okay. So I was just going through it because I didn't touch the stuff since before Greece. So I was just going through it. So there was a couple sampler packs in there. And I was like, oh shit, I got to rip these open and throw them into Humidor because it's been almost a month since I opened the packaging, I realize
they come in like the Humipack.
I'd never seen that before.
Oh, dude,
it works.
They're too much.
What's that?
They humidify too much.
You think?
Almost always when I get those sample packs and they come in like the Ziplocs that are like pre-humidified or whatever, almost always they are like, doesn't matter what brand it is, doesn't matter if it's Perdomo or Gurkha or anything like that, they come and they're spongy. So typically what I'll do,
really,
if I get one of those samplers, is take them out of that Ziploc and I'll leave them out, for a night or two just to kind of firm up a little bit, because I find that they're so humid that they don't smoke right. But so I'll usually take them out, either let them sit or just put them in my travel case or something where it's just not as humid. I just find that they're spongy. Personally.
Really? So I opened these because it has like the little perforation for you to tear the top off.
Yeah.
But you don't have to. Like, it's just a Ziploc bag, right? So I opened them all, and they all feel great in the cellophane. Like, I just squeezed them a little bit. I don't want to crack them. So
I noticed Perdomo is the biggest offender.
These feel great, and they look great, and it's crazy. It's like a Boveda pack, but a Ziploc.
Yeah, pretty much.
And like you could feel the liquid in there. Like I'd never seen that before. I'm very out of the loop in that regard.
Yeah.
So. But yeah, I thought that was nifty. Hunter Lister, please smoke that Daytona cigar now, because I'm going to bring you 5 more at Daytona. So just don't save that thing. That's a waste. We're going to get more, Bubba.
I can't wait to get one that's banded so I can encase it in amber and hold on to it forever.
Well, he's got to get his shit together. So he's on my list this week too. I'm like, hey man, it's July. Where are we? What are we doing? So
Tyson Dallas said, I don't smoke, but have you guys tried a cigar subscription box? I have not. I haven't. So I was part of that Low Country Cigar Club, which unfortunately is no more because Trey, who was the guy starting it, and the owner, his wife got stationed out in California, so they had to move.
Oh wow.
But there's a ton of subscription options now. We used to do one. There used to be a Snakes and Stogies one when I worked at the shop, where I'd put together it wasn't like a subscription box. It was like once a month we'd put together 3 or 4 cigars, and if anybody wanted to get it, they were handpicked by me, shipped out and everything. And
which, can we still do that, or is that like against the law? Because you don't work there anymore.
We could still do it.
Like, is there like a tobacco dealer's license or something? Because we're not giving it away.
We would still do it probably through Buford Tobacco.
Oh, well then, yeah, we could just do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let us know.
I can get them and then like resell them without the tobacco license.
Yeah. Yeah, but you could go there and cherry pick if need be.
Yeah.
Nice. Good.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Good stuff.
It's cool.
Very good.
I thought I had something else, but
You got to give us some reptile update.
Got my dad's snakes.
Oh, cool.
Which was 2 Alterna and the morbidly obese corn.
Back in the lamprose again.
Yep. One's just a generic from Tony D, and the other one is a female West Langtree, also from Tony D.
Cool.
The West Langtree's been problematic feeding for him pretty much from the beginning. Not on Tony D's part, but my dad had it set up in one of the nano exoterras, and he struggled to get that thing to take. I put it in one of those McCormick tubs, the little red lidded Dollar Tree ones that I like to use for smaller stuff.
Yep.
Left it in there for like 2 days, drop fed a fuzzy on a deli lid, and it went right over and ate it like it had been doing it the entire time.
That's it, man. There's just too much light, too much visibility. Yeah.
Start feeding that up a little more.
Okay, that's good.
I guess there is bad news to the whole thing. My male Jansen I rolled over the weekend. So that was
no way.
That was nice.
How'd that happen?
I don't know.
You didn't necropsy or anything?
No.
Okay.
No.
Damn,
I have the egg still, so there is an egg still. We're getting into I think we're at day like 122 now. I'm not expecting anything to come of it, but
okay,
we'll see. It ain't over till the fat lady sings. Tell me when she's on in 5.
Yep.
So Jansen I project right now, I'm honestly not all that concerned about jumping straight back into something with it. I want to be a little more selective about what I get. Because there's a couple routes I could go. I could go get a male at Daytona from a flipper and deal with all the things that come with buying a Jansen from a flipper.
Yep.
Or I can hold out, maybe wait around to see if Chaz or anybody else has a long-term captive male that they're willing to part with, or so I don't know. Right now I'm not even really worried about it. I also think that I may be better off just starting with another young pair or young trio.
Couldn't hurt.
We'll see, but it's a bummer. It happens. It is what it is, and this is the joys of keeping animals.
It's true. It's true. I feel your pain, man. I feel your pain all too often. So,
other than that, got some little ornamental tarantulas molting.
Cool.
Some fuscas are molting a little bit. All that good stuff. What we were talking about when we first started was I'm going to Tennessee at the end of the month, and I'm hoping maybe they have some of those Vehovis that we have native here in South Carolina, native that far west. According to some of the range maps I looked at, it's possible. Looked on INAT, didn't see any observations, so we'll see. But again, like I was saying, as we were starting, that town they live in is very, very small. There's like maybe like less than 200 people or 300 people that live there. It's tiny, so there's not going to be a lot of people out there looking around, posting on INAT.
True.
So,
especially something like that. It's not like an anole or a box turtle where like somebody walking their dog would see it, or a jogger would see it. They have to actively be flipping to find said bug. So
I'm gonna take my hooks. I'm gonna see if I can find some nice timbers.
Excellent.
I know they've got. I don't know the common name of this damn king snake. I know people know it. I don't know it, but the Lampropeltis, the Nigra. I don't know if it's a subspecies or a full species at this point. But
Negrita, right?
Huh?
It's Negrita, right?
Negrita or Nigra? I can't remember.
I think it's Negrita.
It might be. I don't know. They're cool.
Yeah,
I dig them. I don't want to keep them, but I like them.
Yeah.
So
good stuff.
Should be interesting.
Very cool.
Might see Dustin Black while I'm out that way. We talked about maybe getting together. He's kind of a little bit of a drive from where they are, but we'll see.
Yeah.
I'm only there for like a sort of a long weekend, so
Okay.
I don't know what's going on. But are we gonna get into some Atheris?
Yeah, however you want to quarterback this, man. I mean, we can dive right in. We can touch base on anything else you want to touch base on, but I think we're good. I think we're caught up.
If
I feel weird, like it's been like 2 weeks, you know.
It has. I can't even keep up anymore with what with the schedules and stuff. It's been goofy on all fronts.
Yes, sir.
If you've listened to this network for any extended period of time, you know that Atheris, or the African bush vipers, are a group that is very near and dear to my heart, even though I will probably never keep them. I love them. It's a group I've been borderline obsessed with since I was a kid in the early days of Kingsnake. And so going with this whole Genus Spotlight highlight thing, I was like, let's get into it. I think it's a good species because Phil's kept a handful of them. He's worked with plenty of them. So I was like, what a perfect candidate for sort of the first highlight series type deal. So
absolutely.
We figured we'd get into Phil's time, working with them, keeping them, that kind of thing. And then I have INAT pulled up with some observations, and then I figured we'd also get into some bite reports.
Yeah.
But to start, so what do you got?
Well, I was gonna say, I'll just preface with you guys will be able to tell by the photos which ones are old, which ones are newer. Over the past year, the only Atheris I've kept was that one Chlorecus. I actually I bought a whole shipment of them from Ghana about 2 years ago, and I cherry picked a couple for myself, and then I sold the rest. I wholesaled off the rest. You'll see some videos that I sent Smitty of us unbagging them fresh off the boat, as they say. And then before that, I kept a small group of different Squamangera, but there's also a bunch of pictures from when I worked Strictly many, many moons ago, and some of the stuff that I kept for myself, some of the stuff we just unbagged, and you could tell which photos are which, but we'll go through them and I'll try and remember the stories best I can, but I don't know where you're at, Smitty, with that, if you want to start one way or the other. I tried to send them to you in like
chronological order.
No, I don't think chronological, but like groups of animals, if that makes sense. How many species are in the genera?
That's what I'm about to pull up, because off the top of my head I don't remember, because it's changed a good bit actually with them in recent years. There's been a lot of taxonomic work done.
Right.
I think it's probably fair to say that in that genus there's been more new species discovered in that genus than I can think of in any other in recent memory, except for maybe Protobothrops.
Well, I was going to say the one that really comes to mind for me is the most recent Schleg.
Yeah.
No, I can't remember the Bothriacus, excuse me.
Yeah.
With the exception of Bothriacus getting chopped the hell up, I would agree with you that Atheris is probably the most newly described genera in terms of splitting into new species or dividing them up into new species.
Yeah, so let me see. And this is also going to include sort of the Atheris adjacent stuff, even though, so like things like Atheris barbari are considered Atheris, even though if you looked at them, you would not think they were directly related.
But isn't that, didn't they split it now? It's something else?
Maybe.
I thought they did, because it is what it is. And by the way, Jeremy chimed in, and Negra is the Eastern Black King. Negrita is the Mexican Black King. So thank you for clarifying. They all sound the same, man.
So there's a tribe. It's Atherini, and in that tribe is Montatheris, Hindii, and Proatheris superciliaris.
Right, which is monotypic. Both those are monotypic, right?
Yes. And I think Barbari kind of was the recent one to sort of miss the cut on being its own thing.
Okay, yeah.
Outside of Atheris.
Yeah, according to Wikipedia, it is still Atheris. Okay.
But as far as species go, and this is including species that are not I guess, considered extinct. So like Hetfield Eye, which is the snake that made headlines a couple years ago because they named it after James Hetfield of Metallica. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 species.
Not including Hatfield Eye?
Including Hetfield Eye.
Okay,
and
cool.
then Acuminata, I believe, is also another one that's only been described from a holotype.
Okay.
Okay. And I think that's Subocularis, I think, is only described from a holotype 2, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
I don't know. But really cool, badass looking snakes. We'll pull up Phil's timeline of things here. So currently in the hobby, there's really only Nishii, Squams.
I'll be honest, man. Find me someone with niche eye.
They exist.
They exist? Okay.
They exist. It's
all right.
Small, but they exist.
But yeah, I would say niche eye, Squamangara, broadly eye, Ceratophora, if you've got the shekels, as they say.
I don't even think so. I don't know.
Yeah, dude, there's guys that got them, but they're
Carl Barton
money.
had some, but I don't know if he still does or not.
I mean, hell, man, at one point I had 12 of them. We were paying like $13 each. It's crazy. Many, many moons ago. Not anymore. Now they're lots of dollars.
So of that 15 or so species I just listed, there's literally a fraction of them are actually kept in captivity on a regular basis. Chlorecus and Squamagera being the two main ones you're going to see.
Right.
Pretty much anything outside of those is going to be pretty serious money and not very common. Nishii probably being the third.
Yeah, I would go that route.
Third place in terms of what people are keeping and what you're likely to see in private collections. Desai, I know there's people in Europe that have Desai. I don't know if there's anyone in the States that has it anymore.
Not anymore, yeah. And if they do, it's private hobbyists with pets and stuff. I don't think anyone's actually producing them anymore.
But here's the first video we have.
So this is about 1.5 to 2 years ago, maybe. And this is Chlorecus fresh off the boat.
Western green bush viper.
Yeah, this was actually from, I want to say, Ghana. I don't remember. I did not actually do the import. I just purchased them. But yeah, man, they are usually just green with some white dots, white flecking on the dorsal area. One might construe it as banded if you like connected the dots, but you see there's a couple of yellow ones in there. The yellow ones are very rare. I don't want to say very rare. They're very uncommon. And at one point it was believed to be just a mutation. But now I want to say most people think that it is some kind of regional phenotype. Now I sent Smitty some pictures of one that
just so people can see sort of what we're.
Yeah. There you go. So there's a yellow one that most likely had turned green. And the one I have is I got a bright neon, like baby chondra python yellow. And then over the course of about 3 years, it shifted to green. And that's the one that just passed away, actually.
Yeah.
So.
Very cool snakes.
Yeah, not the most attractive if in terms of patterns and colors, but a very, very good hardy animal, very temperature tolerant, humidity tolerant. That's why I'm shocked that mine passed away. I really feel like it was just too much time in the desert room kind of did it in, because they are more of a forest animal, not so tropical per se, but more of a standard forest.
That's a neonate sort of in between the OCC.
Yeah.
Let's see what we got here.
So there you can see a yellow baby hanging on to a green adult.
Hitching a ride.
And for those curious, the tubs in the background, those are just normal, I want to say 18 quart tubs. And what we do is when we get the snakes in on a shipment, they're very dehydrated. So we'll put about 1 inch or 1/2 inch of water in all those tubs and just throw 2 or 3 snakes in each tub, let them swim and soak and wash off the funk from shipping and get as big a drink as we can. That's why you see there's like a bunch of humidity on the tubs. And then once they've done that for about an hour, we'll take them out and put them on paper towels and let them relax and get a meal in a day or so and start the acclimation process. But I just thought that was really cute with the little baby hitching a ride.
And for anyone wondering, the genus as a whole is not very big. Like they're not big snakes.
Right.
What's the biggest Chlorecus you've seen personally?
The biggest Chlorecus, I would say, would probably be about 2.5 foot, and maybe juvenile corn snake in thickness.
Mm-hmm.
You know, maybe like a 1.5, 2-year-old corn snake in thickness. So that's a large adult.
Yeah.
I don't know if you could zoom in.
Look at Phil.
So that right there is, oh geez, I don't even know how many. That is all squams. So each one of those bags has one adult squam in it, and that crate was 2 levels. So just to give you an idea of how many we brought in. So, and that was a while ago. I think that was 2017 or 2018. It was before COVID. I know that. So that is a black or slate squam. Obviously, it's in a deli cup. Forgive me on the bad cell phone pictures, but I thought that was pretty cool because it's almost like a greenish black. It's not truly black, but it's not truly green. I thought that was a very interesting animal.
Mm-hmm. So it's the variable bush viper, and you'll see that they're called that for a reason. They're kind of like the Amazon tree boas of the viper world. You know, you've got red ones, you've got orange ones, you've got yellow ones, you've got black ones, you've got tigers, you've got bluish ones. Like the spectrum is huge.
Yeah.
And then these are undoubtedly going to be the most commonly kept and imported in terms of Atheris. I'm trying to see if there's any like decent pictures.
Well, I was also going to say that they're actually called the variable bush viper because you can have a yellow mom and a black dad, and it makes a green baby, or a yellow baby, or a yellow dad and a red mom, and you get blue babies, and there's really no rhyme or reason to it, kind of like Amazon tree boas. However, professional breeders like Alex England has kind of learned what traits do what, and now they're really harnessing to try and line breed in specific colors. So a lot of like the tiger morphs and some of the more brightly colored line bred specimens is very much a controlled breeding. In line breeding, it's not completely roll the dice like you would have with just 2 wild snakes.
Right.
And that was actually 2015. I found that photo. Sorry. So that box came in 2015.
This is a yellow individual.
Oh, that's really yellow.
Yeah.
That's not squam, or is that Chlorecus?
This is squam.
Okay, cool. So we're 2 squams now. All right.
It's a nice sort of bluish
minty
one. Yeah.
Yeah. That's really pretty.
A lot of these are imported from the Congo, right?
Yeah. In fact, the number 1 squam exporter was the Democratic Republic of Congo. And when people say, "Oh, these are Congo squams, or they're Congo vipers," well, people don't realize Congo is like twice the size of Texas. It is massive.
Is it really?
It's huge, and there's so many different landscapes and regions, and Lord only knows where the animals were field collected.
See this? I think this is a broadly eye. I don't think that's a squam.
I mean, I don't know, man. You'd have to look at the head. The head's really where you tell.
Pretty much all the broadly eye I've seen were much more naturally sort of tiger stripe like that. But I don't know. Broadly eye are closely related to the squams. Visually, the differences are pretty minute. The head shape's a little different. The eyes are a little bigger on the broadly eye. They're a little more forward on the face.
Yeah. So here, I'm going to show you a map of the Democratic Republic of Congo in relation to the United States. Let's see if I can get this right. Oh, hold on. Here, you want to switch screen? There we go.
Oh, good Lord.
Oh, yeah. So that is the
I
Democratic.
did not realize it was that big.
Yeah.
Holy
So,
crap.
Like I said, it's about two times the size of Texas.
It's straight up like a third the size of the U.S. total.
Legit. Yeah, legit. Absolutely. I love these, the true size, the truesize.com. It's so much fun if you're a map junkie and you just like maps. Like this is one of my favorites is this one here. I'll just leave this up. This is the United States against the continent of Africa.
Tiny.
Yeah. Tiny, right? Isn't that wild?
It's crazy.
Yeah. So yeah, that's a black one. So this one, I think this is a broadly eye. I showed it to Nipper. He thinks it's a broadly eye, but this was a squam that came in with that same shipment. Crazy, like burgundy greenish top with those bright green eyes, very forward of the face with that bright green bottom. And if it's not, it would not shock me if this was a Chlorecus squamangera hybrid. Just that one. I should have kept that one. Now that right there, that's a squam. The lime green eye, the slight faded saddling with the faded face, like that's just a great looking animal. You can see the difference. Just that eye, just boom. Can you zoom in on that eyeball?
Not on Facebook.
Oh, damn. Man, that was a good looking animal. Should have kept that stuff. Hey, there he is. So that snake, his name was Darth Vader, and he was probably the biggest male I'd ever seen. I had him for a short while, and then he got sold, regrettably. But his belly was just dark powder blue. His eyes were jet black. His dorsal was jet black. This photo actually, I think, had flash, which is why he kind of has that blue-gray look to him. But there's another photo coming up of 4 different colors that I wound up all taking home, all 4 of them, and you'll see the contrast with the black. There it is. So it was, man, that's why we named him Vader for a reason.
So as far as working with those in terms of like on the pain in the ass scale, where do squams in particular sit?
For me, if 10 is a nightmare and 1 is a puppy dog, I would put them at a solid 7, maybe 6.5. They will obviously ride a hook really well because they are arboreal.
Right.
However, you got to get them to do it first. So their initial response is to fight you, to flop across the table and try and scare you away, huffing, puffing, striking. If you don't do that, if you don't go away, then they're going to haul ass. You got to keep scooping them up and scooping them up and scooping them up. And then finally you'll scoop them up and be like, oh, I'm on a branch. And then they'll sit there and you can do whatever you need to do. So they're very cooperative in that regard. Once you've made them relaxed and comfortable to the point where they're like, okay, I can ride this hook. I'm good.
What about Chlorecus in comparison to squams?
I would say Chlorecus are way more tolerant of hooking. I don't think they have the same defensive behavior that squams have. They will strike. They will bark kind of like rhino vipers. They'll give like that rawr sound. But they're way more tolerant of hooking. They'll ride the hook faster than a squam will in terms of the time frame it takes to scoop them up. If you were asking which snake would be a better first arboreal venomous, I would go Chlorecus in terms of handling. Venom is, damn near the same. So don't get bit. There's no anti-venom. You will have problems. But that right there, that's a normal squam. I like that one because it's very light colored, almost like a pastel. Of course, bright yellow. Oh, I love that photo. And there's Vader.
Oh, man.
Yeah, man. And Vader actually, he was only in that tub for like overnight And then the next day I took him back to his communal vision cage where the other 3 colored ones were. And I think I sent pictures of that. So, and that's a yellow one that I think Peter wound up having the yellow. Marcus had the green and I had the red, or I had the yellow. Peter had the red. I don't remember.
Oh, I love that.
I know. Isn't that great burgundy color? Oh, what a great looking critter, man. Okay, so this is the Chlorechis that just passed away. And I'm about to spray it down with water. It was lime green, man. It was freaking lime green, just like those other Chlorechis you saw in the videos.
Mm-hmm.
But the following photos is yellow, and you'll see it do the OCC change, the ontogenic change, and you'll see the green start to come in like a chondro. So that was when I like first got it. Bright green, bright yellow, excuse me. And these photos just don't do it justice. There you go, bright yellow. So, and then you can see the green starting to come in the face and some of the saddles. Oh, there's Vader in the communal vision. Man,
awesome.
What an animal, man. You know, everyone has snake regrets. He was a snake regret. So, and by the way, all these squams you're seeing right now, these that are in like foliage, they were all in the same vision cage. We had 4 in there, and then I got rid of Vader, so it was down to 3. There's the 3.
That's a good indication of the variability right there.
Oh, for sure. For sure. I think it's a good photo too. Like there's no flash, you know. Mm-hmm. That was a good shot too.
Yeah.
That red one was a feisty thing, man. That red one was definitely the king of the cage. Nobody messed with him. That's just a pretty yellow that came in. That was my yellow there. And it's crazy. See how much red is on his first third?
Mm-hmm.
That was variable by the night, variable by the week. I mean, he was a yellow squam with dark patches or saddles, but there were days when he was more red. There were days when he was more gray. Very, very variable in that regard. While as that red one looks like that all the time.
There's a little Ceratophora.
Ceratophora. Yep, that was a baby Ceratophora. That was from 2009. So I wish you could zoom in, man, with these little eyelashes.
Let me pull up Ceratophora on iNat. So this is the Usambara eyelash viper, not to be confused with the South American, Central American eyelash vipers. Share this tab instead.
There it is. That's a good looking adult.
Very similar in terms of the makeup of them, like the construction of the eyelashes and whatnot. Considerably more toxic than Bothriechis, I think it's safe to say.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And no antivenom. And I think Ceratophora have better eyelashes. I mean, let's just be real.
They're definitely more pronounced.
Yeah.
Without a doubt.
Legitimate eyelashes.
There's been some pretty badass looking ones of these too. Like there's some all black ones on those as well.
That's cool. I'd never seen that before. That's on iNat?
Yeah.
Dude, that's clearly in someone's cage. Look at that.
For sure. There's been a couple that I've seen that were pitch black like this.
Nice.
You get some that are like patternless.
Yeah, that's good looking too. See that right there? When I think Ceratophora, that's what I think.
Yeah, that one almost looks more like a Matilde to me, though. I don't.
You know what? You could be right. Could be right. But do Matilde have that pronounced brow line?
That's what I'm like with this one in particular. It doesn't seem to have the same sort of what you get with like that. Okay. You know what I mean?
It doesn't have the defined scales. Okay.
But Matilde are also built different. They're heavier, they're bigger overall, and they're more stout, if I'm not mistaken.
Right. And that
And
one
there
is
was
a little girthy.
I think we've talked about it previously. It's been a long time, but when these were getting imported heavy, there was some Matildae that got imported as Ceratophora before Matildae was even a thing.
Yeah.
Because they look so similar, at least in this form, this color form.
Yeah.
And you'll see that here in a minute. We'll switch over to Matildae as soon as we get through these. But yeah, this was a species that was imported from, I think Tanzania was a big exporter of these.
Kenya.
Kenya.
We always got them from Kenya. And I mean, it was a long time ago, so I guess it's okay to say, but I had my assumptions that some of them were on the Ethiopian side and may have slithered across the border just because some of them were just so good looking, man. It's just like that just, the maps didn't line up, if you know what I mean. But yeah, we got them. We always got them out of Kenya.
And this was
legitimate exports out of Kenya.
It was brought in a lot. And when we've talked about these previously, Phil, you mentioned that they did not seem to do very well.
No, man, I don't know anybody.
Because it seemed like with the amount that were being brought in, that they must have been doing well enough for the demand to be there. But
yeah, I had personally, I never kept them or owned them myself, but just keeping them at Strictly when I was working there in the venomous room, I had better luck with my personal Hispida than I did with them. Yeah. And maybe it could just be that we didn't know what the hell we were doing. Like, I mean, I was trying to feed them frozen thawed pinkies that were scented with anoles because that's what I had, or frozen thawed pinky scented with a live green tree frog, and they just didn't want. The Hispida was easy. I just gave it green tree frogs and ate them. So.
Yeah, see, I really think that photo, a couple photos back, is a Matildae. Because
yeah, I'm with you.
This is a Ceratophora for sure because the pattern's much more erratic, and on this Matildae, it's much more sort of
dorsally,
more like linear.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
Little more organized.
Little more uniform.
Yes. A
little more uniform.
And we got this jungle carpet phase.
Oh yeah, dude, that's so fucking cool, man.
Yeah.
That's so cool, man. Legit looks like my jungle carpet upstairs.
Really cool. And then it was one of those things where, Kenya shut down, or whichever country was sort of the main driver behind them getting exported, and then they disappeared.
Yep.
They were dirt cheap for a long time, and then the valve got shut off and prices skyrocketed.
That's it. That's how it happens.
How were these in comparison to Squams and Chlorecus as far as working with them?
I would say the more tolerant than any of the other ones.
Really?
Yeah, basically you scooped them up with a little neonate hook and they just sat there. So, it didn't matter how big they were, if they were the really small ones or they were adults. And there's my Hispida, my little fuzzy buddy. That's another snake regret, man. I should have never got rid of that snake. That snake was awesome. But
let me see. I don't know if there's even Hispida on INET. Yes, there is.
Yeah, and that picture was I think 2000. I think I got that snake in the end of 2009, early 2010, maybe was when I got that snake. Maybe 8 to 9. I don't remember. But I kept that thing in it was a 10-gallon fish tank, but the lid was on the end. So like it was a vertical fish tank. Does that make sense?
Right.
And there was just a screen lid on top. I had I put cypress mulch at the bottom. I had a big giant water bowl in there that took up almost the entire bottom of the tank. And then I literally had branches from a ficus tree that was outside of Strictly that I just snapped off with my hands and stuffed in there. And dude, that thing loved life. No lamps, no nothing, just room temp. And I fed it live green tree frogs. And dude, it was so cool. So cool.
And I don't know if these are even still being brought in. They were brought in not in large numbers, if I recall. They had a reputation for really being difficult to keep alive, and I don't think anybody produced them successfully in captivity in the States.
No, not to my knowledge.
I think people were feeding them snails at one point. They occupy sort of a really odd niche. Like Phil was saying, like frogs seem to be a big thing. I think I've heard snails or snails are a big part of the diet too. Like they're sort of more specialized in terms of feeding and things like that. But the common name is the hairy bush viper, and it's because the scales sort of have this weird what's the word for it? Curvature to them that sort of has them flipped
they're
up almost,
extremely keeled.
like flared up.
Yeah. Yeah, it literally looks like a dragon snake. Like if you were to imagine a fairy tale dragon with like the spiky scalation, that's what it looks like.
So I don't know if these are even brought in anymore.
I don't think they are. They came in from a good handful of different countries. I remember we got some from Uganda at one point. And then I think, I want to say not DRC. I think it was just Republic of Congo. Let me look. Hold on. And then Kenya. Mine was Kenyan.
Also built very differently from squams. Sounded almost like the opposite, where these are sort of lankier and slimmer.
Yeah.
Definitely longer. Squams are much more stout, almost built more Echistrodon like if they were arboreal.
Yeah. Yeah, it was Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania.
Very cool snakes, though.
Super cool.
One you see on Google a lot that's photoshopped to be a bunch of dumb colors.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a popular one for that.
Very popular.
Let's see. Here we go. My all-time favorite snake in terms of natural snakes of the world. This is Atheris Spotlight, which is the Great Lakes bush viper. Sedge viper is another one. Have those up.
So that one was from, again, I think a Kenyan shipment 2010, or it might have been Tanzania. I don't remember, but we got a lot. We got like 100 of them, and I think we were retailing them for like $75 a piece or like $80 a piece,
dude.
Something like that. All different shapes, all different sizes. Some that were heavily black, some that were heavily green. All of them ate fuzzies right out of the gate, just off the tongs. Just a great snake.
Who's that guy?
Look at that handsome devil. And that's on iNet.
Yeah.
nice. Hopefully he watches this. I don't think he will, but hopefully he'll watch those and see himself on there. Yeah, just very, very defensive snakes. I would say rattlesnake personality in an arboreal body. But that being said, they still ride a hook. You just scoop them up and they just kind of sat there. Mm-hmm. But again, we got so many of them in that none of us kept them because we're like, oh, we'll just buy them later, you know?
From what I've seen, it seems like care doesn't seem to be sort of as much of an issue with these in terms of like keeping them alive, but it definitely sounds like they are a little more challenging to breed.
Yeah, I don't think I know anyone that's ever bred them. I've never seen a baby in person. Ever.
Yeah, babies start out looking like this.
Yeah.
Black, dark, kind of the opposite of Chlorecus, where they start out a dark color and get lighter as they go. The first time I ever saw one of these, I was just like a picture, online. Like I said, when I was a kid, the Michael Jacoby had the World of Atheris website that talked about all the species, which at the time there wasn't nearly as many as there are like now.
8 at the time.
And I think I printed out every page from that website and kept it in a binder, and just ever since, man.
Nerd.
These things, there's not a more badass looking snake than a Nishii, but that's just me. And don't do dumb shit like that. People trust in the hex gloves.
Look at that contrast, bro.
Yeah, man.
Look at that contrast. It's amazing people actually freaking find them. How did you find that in the jungle? Look at that. Oh, awesome.
They might be one of the most Bushmaster-looking non-Bushmasters around.
That is very true.
But then you get some that are almost patternless.
Yep.
And then some that are wildly, patterned.
Dude, African Habu. Oh, wild.
Yeah. Gorgeous.
Yeah, man.
I don't think I've ever actually seen one in person now that I think about it.
You're kidding. Not even like a Columbia?
I don't think so. Maybe.
Dude, that was the thing, man. I remember back in the day, like
Do that
2005,
little nugget.
like 2005, 2006, when you went to Columbia, every single venomous table had Southern Copperheads and Nichii. Every single table. And they were like $125
It's ridiculous.
because they paid $80 a strictly.
This is an interesting one.
Yeah.
I remember we've talked about this photo
We have
previously.
talked about this photo. Yes, this is from 2010 on a Kenyan shipment of Desai.
Oh, and there is INAT pictures of these. So Desai is probably also, again, in my opinion, second place to one of the most badass looking snakes ever.
Now, do you want to talk about the obviously the one in the background is 1000% Desai, but
Right.
you want to talk about the one in the foreground that
Yeah.
I thought was Desai?
Yes.
What do you think it is?
The tail, like the slight pattern on the tail makes me think that it is, but I don't remember what you told me it was when we had the conversation.
Our English pal across the pond, as well as a couple other Europeans, think that it is a very ugly Runguiensis.
Oh.
Yeah. So, and I tell myself at this point, because the photo was, oh my God, 20 years ago, whatever it was, that I tell myself it's Runguiensis just to say that I've, played with one in person.
Seen one, yeah.
Seen one in person. But in all joking aside, it could very well just be a very dark, very ugly Desai. There were several in the group that had that kind of just dirty color. Because even you look at that animal, see how the yellow scalation is like flecked in there.
The tipping, the
tipping,
unbelievable.
And at the same time, that specimen that you have on the screen right now is still dirty from the wild. It still has dirt and dust and whatever on it. It hasn't shed beautifully. That animal may have shed. So I don't know if the specimen in my picture is just a dirty one, or if it's a very dark Runguiensis.
There's like tipping in jungle carpets, and then there's like this where it is literally tipping, like the tip of each scale is just dipped in yellow.
Legit.
That's another one where like you see the pictures of it and you're like, there's no way that's real.
Right.
I mean, just freaking incredible. And does anybody even have these currently that you know of in the States? I know there's still some in Europe, but crazy. Absolutely nuts.
Yeah, man. Killer. Absolutely killer.
That is all your pictures.
That's all of them?
Yeah, I think so.
Really? I thought I sent you more than that.
Maybe. Let me look.
No, I think you're right, man. Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah.
Man, I thought I had more photos. Oh, well.
But going back to Nichii, I managed to... So there was this website back in the day called venomousreptiles.org. It's the Southeastern Hot Herb Society, and they used to post articles fairly regularly about various things. And one of them was a bite report that a guy posted who was bitten by a Nichii.
Very cool.
This is from August 28th, 2000. I figured I'd go ahead and read it.
Yeah, go for it.
Let me zoom in because my eyes are getting worse. Zoom in. There we go. This is from Micah Stansel. Again, August 28th, 2000. So almost 25 years ago.
Wow.
Jesus.
Yeah, right.
Due to the seriousness of mistakes within our chosen avocation, it is probably wise to discuss mistakes when they do happen. For me, the mistake came very shortly after I began keeping venomous reptiles. It was only a little over 2 years into the venomous hobby when I was bitten on the thumb by a sedge viper, Atheris Nichii. I was young and inexperienced, and Everything I knew about hots, I learned on my own. I didn't know any other hot keepers, so I just jumped in head first and took my chances. That was my first mistake. You should always find and work with an experienced venomous keeper before getting your first venomous animal. I had gotten way too comfortable handling my snakes in those 2 short years, and I must have pinned and picked up a venomous snake every day. To be honest, at that time, it was just to hold the snake and get a rush. That was my second mistake. I let good judgment take a backseat to pointless, dangerous activity. You should never pin and handle a venomous animal unless you absolutely have to. Don't let your bravado get the best of you. Always use a shift box when cleaning cages, and if you need to treat or probe a venomous animal, use tubes or foam to secure them. So the story is, I was cleaning out cages one afternoon when I learned what was to be a very painful lesson. The first cage I cleaned was that of a large sedge viper around 2.5 to 3 feet in length. I took a bag and 2 clamps out and clamped the bag to the counter. I then took the snake out, placed her on the floor, and pinned her the way I had done many times. I picked her up behind the head and with my right hand and by the tail with my left hand. I carried her over to the bag, placed the tail in first, then held the bag open with my left hand as I dropped the snake in the bag. When I dropped the snake, I made the mistake of holding on to the bag instead of letting go. She caught herself on the edge of the bag with her prehensile tail and in one fluid motion shot straight up and out and bit me on my left thumb. I didn't feel any pain from the bite, but I knew it had happened.
Wow.
In disbelief, I looked down to see the 2 fang marks and a couple of drops of blood. I quickly hooked the viper and put her back in her cage. Knowing the seriousness of the situation, I quickly headed back inside to my house to tell my wife what had happened and that I needed her to drive me to the hospital. She was in the middle of giving our little girl a bath and asked if it could wait until she was through. I kind of laughed and said, "No, we have to go now." It was only about 15 minutes of a drive, but it seemed like forever. About halfway to the hospital, my hand began to feel as if it were on fire, literally. When I arrived at the hospital, I told the nurse through clenched teeth what had happened, and she took me straight back. I had a packet of information already assembled with the scientific and common names, a picture of the snake, its origin, and who to contact on how to treat the bite. The doctor just looked at the picture and said, "Pretty snake." That's it. He didn't even take any information from the packet and therefore didn't know how to treat the bite. By the time he returned, they had me hooked up to an EKG and blood pressure monitor to keep an eye on my vitals. The swelling was well past my wrist and the pain was excruciating. At this point, the doctor decided to cut and suck the bite, even though I told him the treatment was obsolete, and besides that, it had been too long after the bite to do any good. He also decided to give me some antivenom at this time. I told him that there was no antivenom for Atheris yet, and the Crotalidae antivenom wouldn't work. He just smiled and said, "Yes, it will. It works for all snake bites."
Oh my God.
I guess I was too young to know that I could have and should have refused the antivenom at this point, so I ended up letting him treat me the way he wanted to.
Jesus.
After all, he was a doctor, right? But this brings up another point. Don't assume that all emergency room doctors know how to treat venomous snake bites, especially from exotic species. Unless your doctor has spent time in the Peace Corps in Africa, chances are he's never even heard of a sedge viper.
Wow.
Well, by the time he finished cutting and suctioning the bite site, they had pumped 11 vials of Wyeth Crotalidae polyvalent antivenom into my body.
11.
And yet the swelling was past my elbow and I was blacking out from the pain. As they were taking me to the hospital room from the ER, I lost consciousness. After 4 hours, I woke up to discover, much to my dismay, that the swelling was past my shoulder and into my chest. The pain, fortunately, had subsided due to morphine, but this was really the least of my concerns at this point. Also, my hand was so swollen that my fingers were spaced out as far as they could, but they could still touch each other. The hospital called in a hand surgeon, and when he arrived, he wasn't very eager to cut on me. He said that as long as the swelling didn't cut off the blood flow to my fingertips, he wasn't going to cut to relieve the pressure. The technical term for this fasciotomy, and it is fasciotomy, and in reality, they are performed way too often with hemotoxic snake bites. Here we go. I was talking with my hand surgeon when the real fun started. This is when I found out that the venom had inhibited my blood's ability to clot. The doctors felt that my platelets had dropped too low and that I needed a blood transfusion.
Okay.
Thank God when they tested my blood once more, just before they took me out for the transfusion, and discovered that my platelets had come up just enough to avoid one. Blood transfusions are often needed with severe hemotoxic envenomations. I wasn't in the clear, though. I was still technically a hemophiliac. My blood was very thin, and doctors were worried that I could start bleeding internally. I couldn't even get out of bed because they were scared I might fall and bump a table and bleed to death. And I suppose that was actually a likely scenario. After being in the hospital for over a week, I finally talked them into letting me go home. By this time, the swelling in my hand had gone down, and all of the swelling was out of my arm. My hand did have a little stiffness and a few blood blisters, but it was much better. After 2 weeks and multiple trips to the hematologist, my blood returned to normal. Fortunately, the only lasting effect from the bite is a totally stiff joint on my left thumb due to the tissue destruction on the ligament. If you do keep or are thinking about keeping venomous snakes, please understand that you can never be too careful. Many bites result in permanent injuries and are occasionally even fatal. A large percentage of these accidents can be avoided with proper handling techniques and equipment, but if the lasting physical effects of my bite and brush with death aren't enough to keep you from being careless, maybe it will interest you to know that my total hospital bill was $25,000. Though my insurance covered 80%, that left me with a $5,000 debt that I'm still paying.
Wait. 25,000.
25,000. So this
in
is
the year
25
2000.
years ago. Yes.
Dude, that would be a $250,000-$300,000 medical bill now. Easily.
Yeah.
Think about how much the Crofab was.
Yeah.
They probably charged insurance $4,000 a vial. And he had 11 vials. And here's, I bet you money if they didn't give him Crofab, you probably would have been fine in 2 days.
Yeah, maybe.
Wow, man, that's wild. That's wild. 11 vials of the wrong juice.
Michael Jacoby, I believe it's him, commented, I hope Micah's account of this Atheris envenomation will alert Atheris keepers to the potential dangers of bites of these vipers. I encounter far too many people who are under the mistake or impression that these snakes are fairly innocuous. The published literature adds to the misconception, with many reports referring to their mild venom, quote unquote.
Mild meaning you don't die.
Yeah. He said, go to his website and read the account of a bite from a pro Atheris superciliaris. This envenomation nearly killed the victim. Squamager have caused human fatality. There's no specific antivenom for these snakes, and any bite should be considered emergency. Bites often cause severe blood clotting abnormalities and hemolysis.
Was there a link to the pro Atheris bite?
No.
I would love to know that one. That's a species that I really, really want to keep. I can't afford them.
Yeah. Someone said they'd also been bitten by an Atheris, but not a sedge viper, and didn't have to suffer as much as they did. He was bitten on the index finger by a subadult Chlorecus. The animal had just arrived from Africa to a friend of mine. I learned a small bite with a lot of loose skin, so it did a 180 twist, and it tagged him on with one fang on the index finger. He said, just as Micah, I didn't feel a thing from the bite. A couple of minutes later, a friend was driving me to the hospital, and we arrived about an hour after the bite. By then, my finger was swollen to twice the size, and the swelling going up to my hand. It's hard to read. I told the doctor that there were no antivenoms for Atheris bites. The doctor tested my blood.
I wonder if they had given that guy a transfusion, if it would have taken out some of the Crofab that was in there.
Maybe.
It
has to have some sort of effect on it. Right?
Yeah, it's got to have something. I guess it depends on how much blood you're taking out, Wow.
But I've also heard that Crofab, like your body processes Crofab really quickly.
Yeah, and that's why people have horrible side effects, right? The serum sickness is supposed to be real bad with Crofab.
Local hospital. Someone else talking about. Some guy got bit by a Pacific. I don't know if they mean a southern or northern Pacific rattler, but they said the local hospital dripped 2 bags of antivenom into me and added some of the heart medication I forgot to bring with me. Total stay, 1.75 days. Pharmacy bill alone, $41,671. Virtually all of the antivenom. So I don't know. Maybe that guy was missing a 0 on his.
Yeah, he had to have been missing a
hypo.
0. Yeah, for a week in a hospital. Jesus. Who knows? But yeah, moral of the story, don't pin tree vipers and throw them into bags that you're holding open with your hands.
But then there was another published bite from an Initiae from 2013. 30-year-old male was bitten by a Great Lakes bush viper in his left hand. His left upper extremity was endematous, so it was blistering, bleeding from the bite site and the patient's oral mucosa. Initial laboratory studies demonstrated significant derangement of hematologic parameters, including anemia.
Yep.
There's no evidence for the species. Patient was treated with blood products. Mucosal bleeding ceased after 12 hours of admission. Within 12 hours of admission. This is an African snake with no available antivenom. In this case, the patient developed coagulopathy and hemolytic anemia and low fibrinogen. Renal function remained unaffected despite the lack of specific antivenom or the use of plasmapheresis. Our patient was successfully treated with a transfusion of multiple blood products.
Okay.
So basically, they're like, hey, here's how we fix you. We're going to replace your blood.
Yeah, we're just going to flush you out. Yeah.
26-year-old in the Netherlands was bit by a chlorechus. Clinical condition deteriorated rapidly with acute renal failure and considerable blood loss due to lack of clotting.
Wow, on a chlorechus?
Loss due to coagulopathy.
Wow.
Antidote was not readily available and was finally supplied by a zoo in Antwerp. One day after admission, the blood loss diminished.
Yeah, but I wonder if they gave him Echis polyvalent or if they just gave him blood transfusions or dialysis.
Yeah.
Yeah, because from what I've been told on most Atheris, an Echis polyvalent will help alleviate things. It doesn't cure it.
Right.
But it does help. There's some kind of property, which is very interesting because I wonder if the same zinc inhibitors that are prevalent in Echis venom are prevalent in Atheris venom as well.
Mm-hmm.
Very interesting.
Yeah, I have expressed it before, but I feel like if Atheris were like not even a lot bigger, but a little bit bigger, they would be a much, much, much more serious. Like,
oh, for sure,
people would be getting dropped a lot more by them.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And what's interesting to me is you rarely hear of an anaphylactic case with any Atheris, and I wonder if it is because of its hematoxic properties. There's less likely to be a immunoresponse. Does that make sense?
I don't know, but I mean, if also one of their first courses of action is a blood transfusion, like, does that mean like they flush it out before it really becomes a problem in that regard? But anaphylaxis,
it's got to be, yeah,
so fast that
yeah,
I don't think that would really make that much of a difference. But that's why we need to get more doctor people on here to be able to.
That's true.
Explain it to us dummies.
Very true. Very true. Yeah, that's wild, man. That's absolutely wild. I can't believe they gave that guy Crofab. Ugh.
That's like one of my freaking nightmares. Like, if you're keeping exotic venomous, to have a doctor that cannot put their ego aside.
Well, I told you about
do what's best for this patient, and it's like, I don't, like, to just have a doctor that's like, yeah, I whatever you've got, I don't care. Here's what I'm going to do. Whether it's,
I told you the story about my buddy who was getting hours with me, and he lied to the doctors. They gave him Crofab. Did I tell you this story?
Mm-mm.
I thought maybe I did. Maybe. All right, so
you may have. I don't remember.
Many moons ago, when I was getting my hours, there was a guy also getting his hours with me, and he was just as experienced as I was. He had just as much time behind the hook as I did, and he was a great guy, man. He was a responsible keeper, but he did have a snake that was not allowed because he didn't have his license yet. And he had a really, really dumb accident and he got bit. But he didn't want to get in trouble with Fish and Wildlife. So he told the doctors that it was an Eastern Diamondback. And where he lives,
I do remember you telling me about this.
There are many, many Eastern Diamondbacks where he lives. So when he went to the hospital, they're like, oh, we know what to do. Here's some crowfab. And he wound up, they were going to cut his hand off. They were going to amputate his hand. And he wound up breaking out of the hospital himself, like in the hospital gown, like left his clothes and shit, and called a taxi on his Nokia brick phone, like 1-800-888-8888 or whatever the taxi number was back then, and had the taxi drive him to a medical office complex where he knew there was a hand surgeon there or something, and literally went in there in the hospital gown and was like, this just happened. They want to cut my hand off. What are you going to do? He's like, whoa. Let's figure this out. Maybe we do a skin graft. Maybe we don't, let's let everything run its course. And they did a tiny, tiny little skin graft on his thumb and everything was fine.
Wow.
But yeah, he went up getting a blood infection and had to have transfusions because of the blood infection. All because he lied and told the doctor it was the wrong snake, so don't do that.
Yeah.
Don't do that. Yeah. Don't keep snakes illegally. And then God forbid something happens, always tell the truth.
Yeah. I mean, you also, you look at it from the standpoint of too, like if some kid had been bit by a native species and actually needed that antivenom,
yeah.
If the stars aligned somehow just right and, a kid had come in at the same time, shortly after that guy did, and be like, well, we just gave this guy a bunch of our crowfab. Now we don't have enough to treat this child.
Yes.
It's just it's a shitty situation to put, the medical people in. And I've gotten the impression over the years that there's sort of like with venomous, and again, like, whatever I say, take it with a grain of salt. My experience with venomous is fairly limited, and it's limited to native stuff, so I can't really speak too much to the whole exotic thing. But from a bite standpoint, it seems like people are just, if I get bit, I'll just go to the hospital, and they'll just know what to do.
Not the case. Yeah.
There's so many moving parts, so many people involved, and like, what if you're not even conscious?
Yeah.
When you get to the hospital, like the doctors can't ask you questions if you're not aware of what's going on or awake.
Exactly.
Now you're putting them in the position of like, okay, he brought in a folder with this species name on it. We don't know anything about it. It's got some random phone numbers in there. How do we know if these people are even legit? Like,
yeah,
it's just a whole thing. It's so much more complicated than what it is.
So my bite protocols, I've eliminated all of that. So on my bite protocols is a laminated page, front and back. Everything's on one page. It has a picture of the animal. It has a Latin name or scientific name, common name, and then what's going to happen, what could happen, and then what doctors should do to start, and then all the antivenoms that might be available through Venom 1 or whatever. And the goal is that, God forbid, I'm knocking on a wicker chair with my hand right now. God forbid something happens, I have the wherewithal to rip the page out of the binder and, duct tape it to my forehead or whatever, and go from there. And that's it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And that's something else that's killed me, as it pertains to Atheris, is like how many people get and are recommended squams as a first venomous.
Oh yeah. That's like
which
thing.
To me just seems ridiculous. It's like,
yeah,
the likelihood of you dying is slim, but that's the case with a lot of venomous species. But it's still like, why would you even want to start out with something that the fix is A, not even like a real fix,
right?
But B, probably pretty difficult to come across without having to come from, cross country or whatever. Like,
right. And better yet, the best way that I can talk about an Atheris envenomation is you have two choices. You either put duct tape on your broken arm, in which case the bones will heal, but it's not going to be right.
Mm-hmm.
Or you don't, and you just let it heal on its own with no duct tape, and the bones are guaranteed going to be broken forever and fucked up. And that's what Atheris is. There is no cure. You do things to flush it out, but damage is done, and it could be very bad, very bad. You know, going back to bite protocol type stuff is have an idea of the protocol for your significant other, your wife, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, your partner, whatever it may be, and tell them, hey, I know this is really morbid, but if I start walking up to you going, holding a laminated card, this is what happened. Or if I'm banging a hook on the door because that's the only mobility that I can do because I've fallen on the ground unconscious, basically, and you see that laminated piece of paper, that's where you go. And having that the roommate talk, the spouse talk, the boyfriend talk, and it's very difficult, and a lot of us don't want to do it. And when we were teaching the venomous classes at Underground, at least once a year, we would have a powwow at somebody's house. Somebody would host. You know, I think Marcus did it once, and I made a little PowerPoint presentation that was, you know, for all the wives, all the girlfriends, all the boyfriends, and we'd all go have pizzas and beer, no handling, just watch this PowerPoint. And it was amazing to watch the significant others, the roommates, the spouses, watch their eyes bulge out like, oh my God, this is a thing. But it's got to get done. It's got to happen. It's got to be addressed, you know?
Yeah.
Whether it's a squam or it's a inland taipan.
Yeah. And I've felt that venomous keeping overall is not taken seriously enough, and hanging out with Willie at the Serpent Center, you know, a couple weekends ago, he agreed, you know, it's just one of those things where like there's a protocol, and then there's like a legit bite protocol where effort has actually been put into the planning.
Yeah.
And I'm really hoping at some point that I can convince him to join us and talk about it, because his protocol, you know, when he showed me his and explained it to me, like, it is unbelievable how in-depth and on point his protocols are.
And see, I respect that a lot. I appreciate that. My protocols are very, very basic, very simple, because this is going to sound horrible, but my medical professionals in my area are a dime a dozen. A lot of them are not educated to what they should be for that job or that profession.
Mm-hmm.
And they may not remember terminology. They may not know terminology. So I have to spell it out as basic and simple as possible and hope to God that they can put everything together.
Yeah.
That's just it. And I'm blessed that we have Venom 1. I really am, you know, because any of them is going to know what's what in regards to my laminated sheet that I'm bringing them, you know, in big, bold font, you know, do not cut, you know, do not apply tourniquet, you know, tourniquet, excuse me, Nipper. And just not to switch gears on you, but going back to the whole like squam as a first snake thing, I don't think most people should have an arboreal animal as a first snake. I mean, think about it. Like, it's kind of the pain in the ass, you know, tease feeding and like explaining that and teaching that to someone. And I don't know.
Did you get a lot of that though when you were training? People were like going straight.
Oh yeah, everyone was told southern copperhead or a squam. That was like that was like the first venomous snake. And I was like, no, you are not going to do that. I was like, you're going to learn how to handle a baby squam in a deli cup with neonate hook and tweezers. And that's where we learned how to tease feed. And you know what we would do? We would feed baby chondros. Because if you could feed a baby chondro, you could feed a baby Atheris.
You can dodge a wrench, you can dodge a ball.
If you could dodge a wrench, you could dodge it. Is it necessary for me to drink my own urine? No, but it's sterile. I like the taste. Let's not go like crying in the breast milk.
That's a good thing to practice with.
Yeah. For the feeding aspect, not the handling. The handling is
right. But I mean, also when you have chondros that are also runners, like baby chondros, like there's plenty of baby chondros. You go to feed them, and instead of them striking at it and trying to like make it go away, they'll just take off. And when they want to move, like chondros, people don't think chondros can move. When chondros want to move, chondros can fucking move, dude.
Yeah.
I've seen them do it.
And a chondro, you can grab it with your hand. You might get bit and it may hurt, but you can grab a chondro with your hand. You can't grab a baby squam with your hand. It's just I mean, you can, but you're going to immediately regret it. For the rest of
see, and that's the thing too, is like the idea of non-venomous practice venomous.
Well,
like it's I get it.
I agree with you.
It's like
I agree with you.
I'm not really like the consequence really isn't there, so you really take. And I'm not talking. You need to.
I'm not talking about that. I was purely talking about the feeding of arboreal.
Right, but I'm saying like in general.
Yeah,
like, people are like, oh, you want to keep mambas? Get a coach whip.
Like, no, I think that's a horrible idea. But I will say this: when teaching people how to tail an adult cobra, I'll give them a pine snake. You know what I mean? And I'll be like, look, this is rule of thirds, and this is a 4.5 foot pine snake or a 3.5 foot pine snake. Rule of thirds. It's on the tile. Get them in the air properly. Mm-hmm. This is, first third double hook. First third, find the gap, slide the hook to the rear, place the tail in the left hand, elevate the left hand, scoop with the right hand. Boom! Now you got them vertical. Now they're perpendicular to the body, parallel to the ground. P and P, right? They do that 10 times with a pine snake, then they go to the cobra, because I need them to get those body mechanics down right. You know what I'm saying? It's easier because if the thing backs up, it's going to back up just like a cobra. If it rolls on them, it's going to roll just like a cobra. The danger factor is not there, but the body mechanics is damn near identical. But only for that scenario, only for a pine snake and a nausea that is cooperative, right?
Well, that's and I mean that's the next step of it is how do you like are there sort of tiers to it where you're like, okay, we're going to use that pine snake. That pine snake's going to do exactly what you wanted to do with no real effort. It's going to play along. It'll do the job. It's not going to do anything squirrely.
And that's
but,
okay.
Like, what do you do next? Like, what do you when you're training someone? What's that next step to say? Okay, here's another pine snake that's not going to do what you wanted to do.
Well, no, you go to the cobra.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? So like the whole point of the pine snake is not to learn how to handle a cobra. No, it's to learn the body mechanics of tailing a large linear colubrid, right? It is not a cobra. The danger factor is not there. Right. The mental aspect is not there. It's not going to hood up. It's not going to huff and puff. It's not going to swing around and try and bite you in the face or spit at you, for crying out loud, But learning how to get the snake up in the air, okay, rock and roll in the big pine snake. You can't do that with a squam. Or any kind of Atheris. You can't, because chondro, the body mechanics is not the same. The Atheris is going to ride the hook per se, but it's not going to latch on like Velcro like a chondro does.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. Once a chondro's on there, it ain't coming off unless it wants to. Atheris, oh no, that thing will slide right off. And you just got to learn on the go, learn on the job. And that comes down on the mentor too, because the mentor has to verbally articulate all the possibilities. We brought up on the show before the 5 things of venomous, right? Obviously, snakes are more than capable of doing more than 5 things. But if you train for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it doesn't matter if the snake does 1 and then a 3 and then a 1 and a 2 or a 3 and a 4 or a 1 and a 2 and a 3. Like, it doesn't matter what the combo is. If you're trained for all of them, then it doesn't matter. You're trained for all of them. But if you only train for 1 and 2, well, then when 3 and 4 happens, you're screwed. So you're learning the body mechanics on that pine snake, but it is not a cobra. You're going to train on a real cobra. That's that. And we may start small with a smaller cobra and learn double hooking and that kind of thing. If we have that animal, that specimen available, but if not, you'd learn with what you got, learn what you can.
when you were taking it up a notch to something that was more difficult, that was going to sort of make you guess as far as the 1 through 5 thing, like what were you using typically?
It depends on where the apprentice is at. If the apprentice is fairly good with a hook, then it may be a 4-foot monocle cobra. It may be I mean, crap, dude, we had like a 7-foot red spitter at one point, and that thing shot 14 feet in the air and hit the ceiling. Like,
Jesus.
it's just, yeah, but you're not going to start with that. You're going to start with something smaller. When we had that 6-7 foot red spitter, that Polita, I also had a solid 3-foot Joburg locality, Hotang locality wrinkles. That was the first wrinkles I ever worked with, man. Dude, that thing was a puppy dog. It never hooded up, but the body mechanics were perfect. It was a cobra. It rode like a cobra. And if you didn't have the center of balance right, if you didn't rudder the animal correctly, it would let you know. It'd fall backwards. It'd fall forwards. It would roll like a Spilotes or a dendrophilia, whatever. So you learn on the pine snake the body mechanics, but then oh no, you're going to that wrinkles because it's just long enough to be tailed. It's cooperative enough that it's not going to blast you in the face with venom. And when that thing falls backwards because you had the tail too high up in the air, well, you're going to learn that your tail was too high up in the air. And at the same time, while you're watching this as the apprentice, I'm next to you saying, lower your elbow, raise your elbow, turn your wrist to the right. No, a little higher. That right there, hold that right there. And they're like, oh, okay, I get it now. Okay, now put your hook head down a little bit, like 2 inches, another 2 inches. Okay, cool. Now bend your wrist back. Like I'm doing this with them in a calm demeanor. And don't get me wrong, there's other times where I'm like, let go, throw the hook, because shit goes wild. But
bail
exactly, and that's why we have like 8 freaking hooks at the ready, because there's been plenty of times where I'm like, yo, abandon your hook. What? Abandon the hook. And they're like, oh, and they throw it because the thing's coming up the shaft, But that comes down to a good mentor as well. I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but communication is everything. So yeah, there's no reason why someone can't have a squam as their first venomous, but you don't learn. You don't say, I've never handled venomous before. Let me get a squam. Let me get an Atheris. That's a horrible idea, in my opinion.
I don't know where that idea came from. Like, who was the person to be like, hey, these are a great option?
It makes sense where you want to drive a race car. You don't go buy a Ferrari. You start on a Honda Civic that is stick shift, manual transmission, and you drive around in a parking lot, right?
Yeah.
And then eventually you go to a better car and a better car and a better car. And finally you're like, yo, I'm a race car driver now. I went to Dirtfish school. Where's the WRX, mother truckers? For all my Subi fans out there.
When you race for pinks.
Yeah.
On Thunder Road.
Yeah, bro. 100 Acre Woods, Michigan, baby. What? 75, David Higgins, rock out. So yeah, I feel like that is a real big deal, is knowing your limits and learning the right things and having good communication. It plays a huge factor. I really need to start doing those videos again, man. I fucking dropped the ball on that shit.
Yeah, you do.
But
let me see. So there's some other species. There's some observations on 9 some of the other species, but not a ton.
So we left off at Runguiensis or Visei?
Visei.
Okay. All right, tangents there a little bit. A little rambly. My apologies, everyone. We lost a viewer, for Christ's sake. I'm going to refill my beverage. Excuse me.
You do that. I'm pulling up Mobuensis. This is one of the Mabuensis. Apologies. This is one of the more recent species to be described in the genus. And you'll see sort of a pattern, literally and figuratively, with the patterns of some of these and Runguiensis. lot of similarities. You've seen that if you saw the pictures of the Nishii and the Desai, like the patterns on the sort of the last third of the body is all very similar with the saddles, like side saddles, I guess is the way to put it. Mabuensis are no different, and I believe there's a close relationship between those 3 or 4 species. If you really want to know about this genus, sort of in depth, there was a book that was published a couple years ago that's just called Bush Vipers. That is 100% worth getting. It talks about up to the most recent taxonomy with, pre or up to, I think that book came out in maybe 2019 or 2018. So there are some species that are newer as far as taxonomy goes that are not talked about in that book, but it does talk about the relationship between the different species and which ones are sort of branched off from one another and things like that. But Mabuensis is, again, one of the newer ones. It's pretty cool looking. Adorable when they're tiny, like any other viper. I don't know anybody that has these in captivity, again, being so new to science. They're already critically endangered with a lot of the bush vipers, outside of Squamigera and Chlorecus, are, either threatened or near endangered just from habitat loss.
What are we on?
Mabuensis.
Oh, cool.
So I was saying this is one of the newer species to the taxa. Again, I don't think anybody has them because they're pretty newly described inside of the last 5 years, I believe.
And very remote, right?
And very remote, critically endangered. So if you're seeing them for sale somewhere, even in Europe, they were probably not there by legal means. How do I get to the damn species list? I don't know what I'm doing.
I think you can go to if you go to like list and then just type in Atheris, you can go down it, I think.
So we talked about Barbari too, sort of as we were starting.
Let's do it.
And this is what I was mentioning when you look at this and you say, yeah, it's similar, but it's very clearly not the same as all the other ones. But they've done the genetic work and I guess have found it to be closely related enough to be its own thing, because it also occupies a completely different sort of habitat. It's not arboreal.
Yeah.
They're just odd, pudgy little, almost look like slug eaters. Just goofy little bastards.
Super cute. Super duper cute.
And I believe, again, if I recall, they're also like stupid toxic.
Yeah.
For their size and goofy lookingness. They're like the damn the Goombas in Mario.
Legit. I was just about to say that too. Goomba.
From the live action movie, not the
of course. Yeah.
But what I was mentioning with Mabuensis while Phil was gone was you see a very similar trend in Rungwaensis, which is this right here in pattern. Desai, Nishii, Mabuensis all have sort of that very similar patterning, at least in like the last third with some of them.
What do you call that when you have is it lattice where they have like the vines go up the side of the house?
Yeah.
The wooden lattice.
So Rungwaensis are a little different because that whole pattern that you see sort of in the last third of Nishii, Desai, and Mabuensis, it kind of takes up the whole body. And in reading the Atheris book, they do talk about like there is a close relationship, if I recall reading correctly, between these guys and Nishii and Desai and some of the other ones. These are another one you don't see in the hobby.
Gorgeous.
They are very, very cool looking snakes. I have not seen this.
What's the locality of that one minty one?
This one?
Yeah.
Let's see.
Is that Uganda?
Tanzania.
Okay. So was it southwestern Tanzania? Was it?
Yeah, that's what it looks like.
Just north of Tanganyika? I can barely see. Big giant lake.
Yeah.
Okay.
So another interesting thing too with a lot of these other Atheris species outside of Squamigera is like they're really sort of locked into some of these smaller mountain ranges. Like this is Burundi and Rwanda. You'll see a pattern here with the geographic distribution that it's on some of these, like I said, these outlier species that aren't Squamigera. They're much more limited to some specific mountain ranges. It reminds me of some of the vipera species that are only found in specific mountain areas.
Yeah, it's one thing that does annoy me with iNaturalists is they don't give the elevation. Because like when I see a picture of that right there, that thing just screams Bothriechis
Yeah.
in terms of elevation and cloud forestiness,
And then let's see, what else did we have? I think there was some Matildae. There's a broadly eye.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that post-ocular stripe too is also. I haven't seen that in squams. Have you seen that in squams?
No, but I also don't think it's like, how do I phrase this? Squams don't have it. Broadleys do, but not all broadleys have the stripe. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Something like that.
And you can kind of see the difference in like the eye.
Yeah, the eyes
larger in the broadly eye
and more forward.
Much less space between the snout and the eye.
Mm-hmm.
And broadly eye were one that was brought in a lot and misidentified as squams as well. So that's lovely. That's one that's been obliterated by something.
Yeah.
But I mean, you can see why they would make you would get the mistaken identity there and things being imported as squams when they're not. It's there's a lot of similarities.
Yeah.
Load. Squams. That's Mabuensis. Please hold. Mabu.
Any cut?
Here's a Matildae.
Oh, nice.
So this is another one that is not as recently described as Mabuensis, but one of the more recent additions in terms of special separations. You get some again that are almost patternless. That one may just be super dirty.
There's a famous photo of one that's like sand color with dark chocolate brown zigzags. I don't think it's on iNat. I think it's on like
Nat Geo or something.
Yeah. But that tan one, it almost looks like a desert Atheris. That's probably my favorite. Let me see if I can find it. Hold on.
There's no like real good pictures of a nice pattern one.
No, I'm not a robot. Just open the damn picture.
Let's see if we can. And you can kind of see what I was talking about with like the pattern on these being much more symmetrical and sort of organized rather than the ceratophora, which is a little more erratic.
Yeah, for sure. Here, I just sent you two of the Mabuensis that I was talking about from that look almost like deserty, but they're not. Does that make sense?
Yeah, those are the ones from the paper when they were described. It looks
Oh,
like.
is it?
I think so. This one for sure, because I remember it from the paper.
Yeah, man, that thing's killer.
Something super interesting to me about the genus is how everything looks similar, but also has like each species is at least a little bit different in its own way. You know, be the body type or.
Oh, for sure.
Let's go back.
And then did you show Catagensis or no?
I have not, but I don't know that there's any on INAT.
I don't think there is, but there's a bunch from like French naturalist things. Here I have a good picture. This is from Frank Williams or Willems, however you want to say it. I mean, it just looks like a really, what's the word I'm looking for? A high contrast broadleaf eye. And this is straight out of the Katanga province in Democratic Republic of Congo.
Yeah, I think that's probably the least photographs, like living species.
Yeah. And then there's a few on Tumblr, but they're just kind of ugly. Here, I'm sending you one from Tumblr. I mean, it's cool because of like where it's from and like, you know, not a safe place to go, but kudos to the guys and gals that took the photos. Kind of blah looking, you know. The other one's cooler.
I remember the one that Jacoby used on the World of Atheris site, 20 years ago was a really old picture.
Yeah, from like 81 or whatever. Or
it might have even been older than that. Yeah, it was really old.
Yeah, and I know there's that one squam that's like it's a real squam, but it's been highly augmented in Photoshop to look like Skittles.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone says that that's Catagensis, and it's obviously not. It's a squam, but
yeah,
that's the one that everyone uses as like for their high school book report. You know.
Let me see. I think we covered everything that's on INAT.
Which is crazy to me. I felt like there would be more.
I mean, there's plenty of squams and Nishai, but the other species, it's not so much. So there's one sighting of a subocularis, but subocularis is like a next of kin to squams, if I'm recalling correctly. The picture they have on INAT of that is from like a zoo or something, so I don't know if it's even legitimately a subocularis or not.
Right. Well, I was gonna say, do you want to do Atheris?
Yes. Let's see. Similar taxa, Bothriechis. It is not.
So, Atheris superciliaris is the lowland swamp viper or the lowland adder. Legit swamp terrestrial Atheris. So fucking cool, man. It's the Urutu of Southern Africa.
And I was unaware that these things are as toxic as they are.
Oh yeah.
Until within the last like couple of years of reading some bites and stuff, like they are a gnarly little snake, man.
Yeah, dude. Look at the patterning. Oh God, I love it. Oh, with orange. Those bars on the head. Oh God.
It's this weird, like almost amalgamation of like Atheris with Bitis and some Ekis in the mix.
Yeah, and 1000% Bothrops thrown in there.
Yeah, yeah.
Like it's like Bothrops and Ekis had a love child. And I think it's interesting. They always call it a swamp viper, but like every time you see the pictures, they're not in water. They're just in
Right.
like moist earth, if that makes sense.
So cool.
Yeah, so cool. Almost has a Deboya face,
Yeah, yeah.
but like snubby, snub nose.
Franken Vipers.
Franken vipers. I love that one picture with the tail lifted like that. Oh, so freaking cool.
Because then there's Montatheris, which is the Kenya Montane Viper.
Super cool.
Now this one is kind of the opposite. It's like Atheris and Vipera had a baby.
Yep. Dude, like convergent evolution, 1000%.
And also, like, you look at it and you're like, yeah, it looks Atheris-ish.
It's also like price eye-ish.
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
Cortalis price eye wannabe, you know? And that's at like 7,000, 8,000 foot of elevation, right? That thing's up there, right?
I have no idea.
I think so.
Maybe a little bit of Mexican Achistrodon in the mix, you know?
Yeah.
Little Cantil action.
Yeah, a little Cantil white lip stripe. Yeah. They always reminded me of what's that garter snake in Utah that's heavily protected and it doesn't look like a garter snake at all. It looks like Nerodia. You know what I'm talking about?
I don't.
Man, where's Gillen when you need him?
Summon him. Gillen.
I know he's watching.
Those little things.
I know, right?
Like how far do you have to go to get to this to be able to even see these things?
I don't know. Is that marked on the map? That photo?
It's obscured, but it's in Kenya.
Yeah. I mean, you probably need like a prop plane to get there.
I wonder if they don't give the altitude like on purpose. Because surely, like if you're doing this location, they would have that.
Yeah, I'm sure the person who posted it has the altitude on there. They just obscured it.
Does it usually show altitude?
No, I don't think it does, but I think you can add it now. Hold on, let me look.
Oh, okay.
I'm pretty sure you can add it now. Oh my God, I have not been on it in a minute. People commenting on my shit. What is this? Okay, let's try and add something. Photo. Let's post a Catagensis. let's see what it guesses. All right, so I posted the picture. I didn't post it, but I went to upload the picture of the Catagensis from Flickr. It says vipers with 78.5% confidence. And it says also might be Tremercerus purulmaculatus, Crotalus ruber, or Crotalus pyrus. I mean, they're grasping at straws here. Let's say that it's a purulmaculatus. Okay. Add location for better IDs. It's not letting me do it, and my phone is going to die. All right, never mind. We can mess with that later. But.
Huh.
Oh, and Gillen's there. He says, what was the question? So, Gillen, what's that endangered garter snake that doesn't look like a garter snake? It looks like almost like a Nerodia. I think it's in Utah.
What's that place you like to go with all the goofy shit on the walls?
Shenanigans? Oh. It's Afghanistanimation. Dude, tonight's been a night of one-liners.
Yes, it has.
Yeah. Oh, man. No,
Oh, they got Prairie Kings in Dixon.
really?
I did not know that.
You be flipping some boards, boy.
I don't know, man. We'll find out.
Nice. 'Tis the season. 'Tis the season.
We get out there in the mornings. It's pretty toasty there still. Even though they're up higher, it's a little warmer. I've shifted gears now. I'm looking at observations in Dixon, Tennessee, because Van Leer doesn't show up at all as an option to search for. They got ringnecks. They got all kinds of stuff.
And Nate, it is not the black neck garter snake, but thank you for recommending that. Yes, they are very attractive. That's not what I was talking about. Oh, what did Gillen say? Narrow-headed? I think that might be it. I'm going to Google it. Narrow-headed garter snake. Yep, that's it. That's the one. Rufipunctatus. I would have never remembered that. Damnophis rufipunctatus. Thank you, Gillen. We knew you'd get it.
Coming in clutch.
Coming in clutch. From the great white north, eh?
Spiny soft shells wouldn't be native to
Spinies? No, I don't think so.
A lot of box turtles. A red-eared slider.
Nice.
Midland water snakes. No timber sightings so far, which is interesting because I found an absolutely beast of a timber there in like 2006.
Really?
I don't know. Huh. I don't know. I'm not banking on anything in particular, but short list. If they got Prairie Kings, and if I can find some Horridus, I'll be a happy guy.
And yes, Nate, you are correct. They are not in Utah. They are in Arizona. My mistake.
Unbelievable.
I know.
How do you not know?
I know.
Yeah. Well, I feel like we did Atheris some justice.
We did. We always do. This was a good one. Sorry for the reptile ramblings, but I had fun tonight. It was good.
It was. If there's another genus you want us to sort of dive into next time, send us suggestions.
Yeah.
Definitely enjoyed doing this one.
Yeah, good stuff, man. Good stuff.
As always, there you go. Cobras.
There is actually a Venom Exchange radio episode where I break down all of the species of nausea, so you should go listen to it.
That one you would have to do in like parts just between the African and the Asian stuff, dude.
Well, I mean, we did it, and like it's very abridged, like very, very abridged.
Oh, I mean, in how we did this.
Oh yeah. Oh no, we should definitely do that. We should definitely do, cobras of Southern Africa, cobras of Northern Africa, cobras of the Indian subcontinent, cobras of Southeast Asia. We should do that. Break it down.
There's no end to the possibilities.
Yes.
This episode, as always, brought to you by FullVSapparel.com. Hats, shirts, hoodies. You need them. It's not hoodie weather right now, but you can still prepare. Use the code THN at checkout. That is the exclusive promo code for THN listeners and viewers like you. And then you go over to blackboxcages.com, Brax Cages, everything you could possibly need and more. Use code THN25 at checkout there. And then if you don't want to ship stuff or get stuff shipped and you feel like making a road trip out of it, choose the pickup option. They have some new stuff in the works. I've talked about it briefly. I need to get an update from Jen as far as what's going on there, because I don't want to go talking about these things that aren't actually going to flesh out into a full-blown product yet. But yeah, they are working on some things.
I saw they have some rack stands. Bro, very excited about that. I know it sounds dumb, but that is something that I have dreamed about for decades. Very excited.
They hit me up and they were like, you have any ideas for stuff? And I really put some thought into it in my drives to work and to home from work and in the shower. And I finally had something come to me. And so it's been discussed. We'll see what happens.
Okay. Sounds good.
So cold-blooded caffeine, get you some coffee. Snakes and Stogies blend is where it's at, but it's not just our blend that's on there that you won't be disappointed with. They have a ton of other options. A lot of affiliate blends, some house blends. They're all fantastic, and you will not regret it. I need to load up. I need to get me some so I can enjoy it.
Are they going to be?
I do love their coffee, and then I feel bad that we're like cold-blooded caffeine, and then I crack open a Monster, and it could be just an iced latte that I made in my own kitchen with the best coffee available.
It could be. Could be. Are they going to be joining us in Daytona?
I don't know. I want to say they're vending that Southeast Expo in Atlanta in September, but I need to hit up Trey and ask him because I'm honestly not sure. I doubt they're vending.
Yeah, no, I didn't think they were vending, but
I don't know if Trey's going to make it down or not. But
okay,
we'll see. But, you know,
all right.
Don't know what's going on Thursday yet. Neeser's supposed to check his schedule, see if he's stuck at work again. Flippington is not happening because I think Gabe is either just going to be coming back from Belize or is currently still in Belize. And then Jake is going down to Florida on Friday. So he's probably going to want to get the snake room squared away before he leaves.
Yeah. Where's he going in Florida?
He's going to Skies, I think.
Man, that boy never called me when he come down my state.
I know.
Man.
I want to get down there. I want to get down there just to go road cruise, man.
Just come down.
It's that simple?
It's that simple. Just come down.
It's like a friggin' 12-hour drive.
Yeah. Yeah. It's good. Got a guest room. You'd be good. Got to sleep in grandma's old bed, but it's warm.
It's not haunted, is it?
Maybe. She was nice.
Okay.
I loved her. It's my nana.
Discuss. We'll figure that out. But thank you, everybody. We will see you later.
Bye.